The massive space station Nexus Prime floated in the darkness like a glowing city among the stars. Its metal corridors stretched for miles, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Today was special. Today, the Galactic Council would decide who could join their powerful alliance. Admiral Kane walked down the long hallway, his boots making soft sounds on the smooth floor. Behind him, 3 other humans carried data tablets and holographic projectors. They all wore their best uniforms, dark blue with silver buttons that caught the station's bright lights. The humans looked small compared to the other beings they passed. A group of tall, green-skinned aliens with 4 arms chatted in clicking sounds. Near a viewing window, creatures that looked like walking trees swayed gently as they talked. Kane tried not to stare at the floating jellyfish-like beings that drifted past, their tentacles glowing with soft colors. "Remember," Kane said quietly to his team, "we only get one chance at this." Lieutenant Davis nodded. She carried the holographic projector that would show their ship to the Council. "Sir, what if they don't like our design? Then we go home and try again next year," Kane replied. But inside he knew Earth couldn't wait another year. They needed the Alliance's protection. Space pirates attacked human colonies every month, and Earth's small fleet couldn't protect everyone. The Council chamber was huge. The ceiling stretched so high that Kane couldn't see the top. Hundreds of seats formed circles around a central platform, and each seat held a different type of alien being. Some had scales, others had fur. A few looked like they were made of living rock. At the front sat the most important members. Chancellor Vex was a massive lizard-like creature, with red eyes and sharp teeth. His scales were dark green and golden. Jewelry covered his neck and arms. Next to him sat Trade Minister Crix, who looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. "Humans of Earth," Chancellor Vex's voice boomed across the chamber. "You may present your technology." Kane stepped onto the platform. His hands were sweating, but he kept his voice steady. "Honored Council members, Earth requests membership in the Galactic Alliance. We offer our friendship and our protection." Lieutenant Davis activated the holographic projector. A 3-dimensional image of Earth's newest warship appeared in the air above the platform. The ship was called Defiant, and it was humanity's proudest achievement. The moment the image appeared, sounds started coming from the audience. Not clapping, laughing. The Defiant looked different from other ships in the galaxy, where alien vessels were smooth and curved like teardrops. The human ship was angular and blocky. Its hull was made of thick metal plates welded together. Large gun barrels stuck out from its sides like the spines of an angry animal. "What is that thing?" called out a voice from the crowd. More laughter followed. Chancellor Vex leaned forward, his red eyes studying the hologram. "Tell us about your weapons." Kane tried to keep his voice proud. "The Defiant carries 12 kinetic cannons. Each one fires solid metal projectiles at very high speeds. We also have kinetic weapons." Trade Minister Crix interrupted, his insect voice buzzing with amusement. "You throw rocks at your enemies?" The entire chamber erupted in laughter. Aliens pointed at the hologram and made jokes in their own languages. Kane felt his face turn red, but he continued. "Our armor is made of titanium steel composite layered for maximum protection. The ship carries 200 crew members and—" "Primitive," hissed Chancellor Vex. "Your entire vessel is primitive. Look at this design." He gestured at the hologram with one clawed hand. "No energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum drives. You use chemical rockets for propulsion." A delegate who looked like a floating brain in a glass dome spoke up. "My people mastered energy weapons 10,000 years ago. Why do you still use metal bullets?" Kane tried to explain. "Our weapons are reliable and effective. They don't require exotic materials or—" "Effective?" Chancellor Vex laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Against what? Other primitive humans?" The laughter grew louder. Someone in the back shouted, "Do they fight with swords too?" More jokes followed in alien languages that Kane couldn't understand, but the mocking tone was clear. Trade Minister Crix stood up, his multiple legs clicking on the floor. "Humans, Your technology is thousands of years behind galactic standards. Your ship looks like something our ancestors might have built when they first reached space. An alien that looked like a walking crystal chimed in, its voice ringing like bells. My youngest offspring builds better toys in school. Kane felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. Council members, we may not have the most advanced technology, but humans are determined and loyal allies. We've proven ourselves in... Proven yourselves where? Chancellor Vex interrupted. In battles against other humans, against pirates with stolen equipment? He waved dismissively. The galaxy is full of real threats. Energy beings that can destroy entire star systems, machine intelligences that consume whole planets, ancient weapons that tear holes in space itself. The Chancellor stood up, his massive form towering over the platform. What would your metal ship do against a fleet of quantum destroyers? How would your kinetic weapons fight beings made of pure energy? The chamber fell quiet as Chancellor Vex continued. Humans, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but the Galactic Alliance requires members who can contribute meaningfully to our collective defense. Your technology is simply too primitive. Trade Minister Crix nodded. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when your species has advanced beyond throwing metal rocks, we can reconsider your application. But we need, Kane started to say. The decision is final, Chancellor Vex declared. However, as a gesture of goodwill, we will allow human merchants to trade in Outer Rim territories. Under supervision, of course. The dismissal was clear. Kane gathered his team and their equipment, trying to ignore the continued chuckling from the audience. As they walked toward the exit, he heard aliens making bets about how long Earth would survive without proper protection. Give them 50 years, one voice said. Too generous, replied another. 30 at most. Outside the chamber, Lieutenant Davis looked like she might cry. Sir, what do we tell Earth? Kane stared out a viewing window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human colonies were depending on them. We tell them we tried, and we keep building better ships. But inside, Kane wondered if the aliens were right. Maybe humans really were too primitive for this galaxy. Maybe they would always be the ones getting laughed at while others made the important decisions. He didn't know that in just a few months, the entire galaxy would learn that sometimes the most primitive solution is also the most deadly. 3 months had passed since the humiliation at Nexus Prime. Captain Ross sat in his command chair aboard the Defiant, watching the stars drift by through the main view screen. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from the navigation console. The ship looked exactly like the hologram that had made the Galactic Council laugh. Thick metal walls, exposed pipes running along the ceiling, and control panels that used actual buttons instead of fancy holograms. Everything was built to last, built to work, even if it wasn't pretty. Captain, called out Navigator Blake from his station, we're approaching the Outer Rim supply depot. Should I begin docking procedures? Ross nodded. Take us in slow. These depot workers don't like sudden movements. The Defiant was on a simple supply run, carrying food, medicine, and equipment to human colonies scattered across the galaxy's edge. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was necessary. Ever since Earth's rejection from the Alliance, human ships had to work twice as hard to prove they belonged in space. As they approached the space station, Ross could see other ships docked at various ports. Sleek alien vessels with smooth hulls and glowing engines made the human ship look like an old truck parked next to sports cars. The crew had gotten used to the stares and whispered comments at every port. Docking complete, Captain, Blake reported. Good. Tell the cargo teams they have 4 hours to unload and resupply. I want to be back in space before... The communication console suddenly came alive with urgent beeping. Communication Officer Park turned to face the captain, her face pale. Sir, we're receiving a distress signal. Emergency frequency. Put it through. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of an alien ship. The creature speaking looked like a tall, blue-skinned humanoid with silver hair and 4 arms. His uniform was pristine white with golden decorations that marked him as high-ranking. This is Captain Thane of the luxury liner Celestial Glory. We are experiencing critical system failures near the Void Nebula. Repeat, this is an emergency. Any ships in the area, Please respond. Ross leaned forward. Every spacer knew about the Celestial Glory. It was the most expensive passenger ship in the galaxy, bigger than most space stations. Only the richest and most important aliens could afford to travel on it. Park, open a channel. The screen split to show both bridges. Captain, Thane's four eyes focused on Ross and his expression immediately changed from hope to disappointment. This is Captain Ross of the Earth vessel Defiant. We received your distress call. What's your situation? Thane's face showed barely hidden disgust. Behind him, other alien crew members were whispering and pointing at the human bridge. Ross could hear some of their comments. Humans, that's the help we get? Look at their primitive equipment, we might as well give up now. Captain Thane tried to be polite, but his tone was cold. Captain Ross, we appreciate your offer of assistance. However, our situation requires advanced technical expertise. Your vessel's capabilities are likely insufficient for our needs. Ross felt anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. What exactly is wrong with your ship? Multiple system failures, Thane replied reluctantly. Our quantum drives are offline. Life support is failing. We have over 10,000 passengers aboard, including several council members and their families. Where are you exactly? Edge of the Void Nebula, Sector 7G, but please don't trouble yourself. We've already contacted the Imperial Navy. Proper ships will arrive to assist us. Ross checked his navigation display. The nearest Imperial Navy base was 6 days away at maximum speed. Captain Thane, how long do you have on life support? There was a pause. Thane looked uncomfortable. Approximately 18 hours. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood the math. The Celestial Glory would be a tomb long before help arrived. We can reach you in 2 hours, Ross said firmly. That won't be necessary, Thane replied quickly. Your ship lacks the proper equipment to assist a vessel of our complexity. You would only complicate our situation. Captain, Ross said, trying to keep the frustration out of his voice. You have 10,000 lives at stake, and I won't risk them further by involving primitive technology, Thane snapped. We will wait for proper assistance. The screen went black as the alien captain cut the connection. The bridge crew looked at their captain. Engineering Chief Martinez was the first to speak. Sir, those people are going to die. I know. Ross stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Blake, plot a course for the Void Nebula. Maximum speed. Sir? Park looked confused. But they told us not to come. They did, but I didn't join the space service to abandon people in need. Ross stood up from his command chair. Besides, who says we have to help them directly? We can monitor the situation from a distance. Chief Martinez grinned. Just in case something unexpected happens? Exactly. The Defiant broke away from the supply depot and headed toward the dangerous nebula region. The Void Nebula was known throughout the galaxy as a ship graveyard. Strange energy storms could disable the most advanced vessels, and spatial anomalies made navigation nearly impossible. As they traveled, the crew prepared for the worst. Dr. Hayes checked the medical bay supplies. Security Chief Adams inspected the weapon systems. Everyone knew they might be flying into serious trouble. Captain, Blake called from navigation. We're entering the nebula's outer edge. Sensors are picking up the Celestial Glory. On the main screen, they could see the massive luxury liner drifting helplessly. The ship was beautiful, all curves and flowing lines like a work of art. But its lights were flickering, and no engine glow came from its rear sections. Keep us at maximum sensor range, Ross ordered. I don't want them to know we're here unless they need us. For 6 hours they watched. The Celestial Glory sent out repeated distress calls, but no Imperial ships appeared. The luxury liner's situation grew worse. Several sections went completely dark as power systems failed. Captain, Park said quietly, they're dying over there. Ross gripped his chair arms. Every instinct told him to move in and help, but Captain Thane had made it clear that humans weren't welcome. Then Chief Martinez looked up from his console, his face grim. Captain, sensors are picking up multiple contacts emerging from the nebula core. How many? 12. No, 15 ships. Large ones. Martinez's voice grew tight. Sir, those are Reaper vessels. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Reapers. They were the most feared pirates in the galaxy, a mix of different alien species who had turned to raiding and murder. They left no survivors and took no prisoners. The biggest one is the Death's Edge, Martinez continued. That's Warlord Grimm's flagship. Ross watched as the pirate fleet moved toward the helpless luxury liner like sharks approaching wounded prey. Soon, Captain Thane would face a choice between human help and certain death. The test was about to begin. The pirate fleet moved through space like hungry wolves surrounding a wounded deer. Captain Ross watched from the Defiance Bridge as 15 dark ships spread out around the helpless celestial glory. Each pirate vessel was scarred and patched, built for war rather than beauty. My God, whispered Navigator Blake. Look at the size of that flagship. The Death's Edge was massive, nearly as long as the luxury liner but built like a weapon. Black metal armor covered its hull, and dozens of gun ports ran along its sides. Red lights glowed from its bridge windows like angry eyes. Captain, Communication Officer Park said urgently, the pirates are broadcasting on all frequencies. Let's hear it. A harsh voice filled the bridge, speaking in broken galactic common. Attention, pretty ship with all the rich passengers. This is Warlord Grimm. You are now my prisoners. Surrender, and maybe some of you live. The voice laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Your fancy shields and energy weapons won't help you here. My ships know how to hunt your kind. Ross could see the celestial glory trying to power up its defenses. Blue energy shields flickered around the ship's hull, but they looked weak and unstable. The luxury liner had been designed for comfort, not combat. Sir, Chief Martinez reported from the engineering station. The Glory's power systems are failing fast. Their shields won't last 10 minutes. On the screen, they watched as the first pirate ship opened fire. Bright energy beams struck the luxury liner's shields, causing them to flicker and spark. The beautiful ship shuddered under the impact. More pirates joined the attack. The Celestial Glory's return fire was pathetic. Small defensive lasers that barely scratched the attacker's armor. Within minutes, the shield generators overloaded and shut down. They're defenseless, Security Chief Adams said grimly. The communication console came alive again. This time it was Captain Thane, and he looked desperate. His pristine uniform was torn and smoke drifted behind him on his bridge. This is the Celestial Glory to any ships in the area. We are under attack by pirates. Our defenses have failed. We need immediate assistance. Ross started to respond, but Thane continued. Earth Vessel Defiant, if you're still monitoring our frequency, we need your help. The alien captain's voice cracked. Behind him, Ross could see panic on the faces of the crew. Emergency lights were flashing, and the sound of alarms filled the bridge. We have 10,000 passengers aboard, Thane continued. Families, children, please, if you can hear this. Ross opened the channel. This is Captain Ross, we're here. Relief flooded Thane's face. Captain Ross, thank the stars. Can you assist us? Our weapons are offline and the pirates are preparing. To board. Before Ross could answer, another voice cut into the transmission. It was Warlord Grimm, and he was laughing. Humans? The pirate leader's voice was full of amusement. The luxury ship calls for help from primitive humans? This gets better and better. The screen split to show Grimm's bridge. The warlord was a massive creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard. Scars covered his face, and one of his eyes had been replaced with a glowing mechanical implant. Little human captain, Grimm growled. I've been raiding ships for 30 years. I've destroyed Imperial Navy cruisers and captured Galactic Council vessels. What do you think your pathetic metal box can do against my fleet? Ross looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. These weren't career soldiers like himself. Blake was a merchant navigator who had joined the service for steady pay. Park was fresh out of the academy. Martinez had been fixing civilian ships before the military recruited him, but they were human, and humans didn't abandon people in need. Warlord Grimm, Ross said calmly, I suggest you leave this area immediately. The pirate leader roared with laughter. You suggest? One primitive ship against 15 raiders? He leaned forward, his mechanical eye glowing brighter. Human, I've captured hundreds of vessels. Alien ships with energy weapons that could vaporize planets. Ships with quantum armor and reality warping drives. What makes you think your backward technology can threaten me? Ross smiled coldly. Because you've never fought humans before. Grimm's laughter grew louder. Humans? The galaxy's joke species. The primitives who still use metal bullets and chemical rockets. He turned to his crew. Capture their ship too. I want to see what passes for technology on their backward planet. The HFY pirate ships began moving toward both vessels. The Death's Edge stayed focused on the luxury liner while smaller raiders moved to surround the Defiant. Captain Thane, Ross called to the alien ship, get your people away from the outer decks. Things are about to get loud. But your ship, Thane protested, you can't fight them all. Watch us. Ross turned to his crew. All hands to battle stations. Blake, bring us around to attack position. Martinez, power up all weapon systems. Adams, launch all fighter squadrons. Sir, Park said nervously, shouldn't we call for help? We are the help, Ross replied. The Defiant began moving toward the pirate fleet. Compared to the sleek alien vessels, the human ship looked like a flying brick. But as it accelerated, hatches opened along its hull, and small fighter craft began pouring out. Grimm watched this display with amusement. Look at their tiny ships like insects buzzing around a giant. He opened a channel to his fleet. Destroy the fighters first. Show these humans what real weapons can do. The pirate ships opened fire with their energy weapons, filling space with deadly beams. But something strange happened. The human fighters were so small and moved so erratically that the alien targeting systems couldn't lock onto them properly. What? Grimm snarled. How are they dodging our weapons? His weapons officer, a four-armed alien with multiple eyes, looked confused. Warlord, our targeting computers are designed for large vessels. These tiny craft don't register as proper threats. Meanwhile, the human fighters were striking back. Instead of energy weapons, they fired small missiles and used rapid-fire kinetic guns. The pirate ship's armor, designed to absorb energy attacks, offered little protection against physical projectiles traveling at enormous speeds. Impossible! Grimm roared as one of his raiders took heavy damage. They're using primitive weapons. But the primitive weapons were working. Holes appeared in pirate armor as tungsten slugs punched through metal like paper. Fighter missiles exploded against hull sections, sending pieces of alien ships spinning into space. The Defiant itself was closing in on the main pirate formation. Its massive kinetic cannons were powering up, ready to show the galaxy what human engineering could really do. Target their flagship, Ross ordered. Let's introduce Warlord Grimm to human hospitality. The battle for the celestial glory was about to begin, and the pirates were about to learn why underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. All weapons fire at will, Captain Ross commanded. The Defiant erupted in controlled fury. 12 massive kinetic cannons fired in sequence, sending tungsten rods the size of telephone poles screaming through space at incredible speed. The sound of the guns echoed through the ship's hull like thunder. The first salvo hit 3 pirate ships simultaneously. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Their energy-absorbing armor, so effective against plasma weapons and laser beams, provided no protection against solid metal traveling at near light speed. The tungsten rods punched completely through the first pirate vessel, entering through the front armor and exiting through the engines. The ship broke apart in seconds, its crew never understanding what had killed them. Impossible! Warlord Grimm screamed from his flagship bridge. No primitive kinetic weapon should penetrate quantum-hardened armor. His weapons officer was frantically checking readouts. Warlord, the projectile velocity is beyond our calculations. Our defensive systems weren't designed for physical impacts at these speeds. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Brooks led the human fighter squadrons in devastating attacks against the pirate fleet. Her small craft moved like angry wasps, too fast and agile for the alien targeting systems to track properly. Phoenix Squadron, hit their weapon ports, Brooks ordered over the radio. Viper Squadron, target their engine sections. Make every shot count. The human fighters used tactics no alien had ever encountered. Instead of flying in neat formations like civilized spacers, they swarmed chaotically around their targets. Some flew upside down, others spun wildly while firing. To alien eyes, it looked like madness, but it was controlled madness. Each seemingly random movement was calculated to avoid enemy fire while positioning for the perfect shot. The pirates, trained to fight predictable energy weapon duels, found themselves helpless against opponents who fought like they were enjoying themselves. "They're actually laughing," reported a pirate gunner. "I can hear them laughing on the communication frequencies." Indeed, many of the human pilots were enjoying the fight. After months of being mocked and dismissed by alien civilizations, they finally had a chance to show what human combat doctrine could accomplish. Fighter pilot Williams dove his craft between two pirate ships, firing rapid bursts from his kinetic guns. The small tungsten pellets shredded antenna arrays and sensor equipment. "This is for calling us primitive," he shouted into his radio. Back on the Defiant, Chief Martinez was working miracles in the engine room. The ship's inefficient power systems were actually proving superior in combat. While alien vessels relied on delicate quantum reactors that could be disrupted, human ships used brute force nuclear fusion that kept running no matter what. "Captain," Martinez called through the intercom, "I'm rerouting power from life support to weapons. We can maintain full firepower for another hour." "Do it," Ross replied. The bridge was shaking as enemy fire struck their armor, but the thick metal plates were holding. Unlike alien ships with elegant energy shields, human vessels were built like tanks. Security Chief Adams coordinated the point defense systems. "Incoming missiles port side," she called out. Small human guns tracked the alien projectiles and filled space with tungsten pellets, shredding the incoming weapons before they could impact. The pirates were learning to fear human weapons. Their adaptive armor, designed to adjust to different energy frequencies, couldn't adapt to solid metal. Their shield generators, built to deflect plasma beams, were useless against kinetic projectiles. "Fall back," Grimm ordered his fleet. "Regroup at maximum range." But the human fighters followed them, harassing the retreating pirates like angry hornets. Every time a pirate ship tried to turn and fight, 3 human fighters would appear from different angles, firing and disappearing before return fire could find them. Warlord Grimm was growing desperate. His flagship had taken several hits from the Defiant's main guns, and armor plates were peeling away from his hull. "This is impossible. We have superior technology." "Warlord," his tactical officer reported, "their weapons are actually quite simple. But the velocity and mass calculations are—" "I don't care about calculations," Grimm roared. "Destroy them." The Death's Edge turned to face the human ship directly. Its main weapon, a massive plasma cannon that could melt asteroids, powered up with a whining sound. The barrel glowed white-hot as energy built up inside. "Sir," Park warned from her station, "that's a planet-killer weapon. If it hits us—" Ross watched the enemy flagship preparing to fire. The plasma cannon was indeed capable of destroying entire cities. But it had one weakness that its builders never considered. "All power to forward armor," Ross ordered. "Martinez, emergency power to the main gun." "Captain?" Blake looked confused. "We're not running?" "No." Ross smiled grimly. "We're charging." The Defiant accelerated directly toward the Death's Edge. The human ship's thick armor was angled to deflect impacts, and its redundant systems were spread throughout the hull. It had been built by people who understood that sometimes the best defense was simply refusing to die. Grimm fired his planet-killer weapon. The plasma beam struck the Defiant head-on, melting through the front armor plates and burning deep into the ship's interior. But the human vessel kept coming. "Damage report," Ross called out as sparks flew from overloaded circuits. "Forward sections heavily damaged," Martinez replied, "but the main systems are intact. Hull breach sealed. We're still functional." Wow, pirates couldn't believe it. No ship had ever survived a direct hit from their most powerful weapon. "Impossible," Grimm whispered. "What kind of ship can take that much damage and keep fighting?" "A human ship," Ross answered, though the pirate couldn't hear him. The Defiant was now close enough for its main gun to fire at point-blank range. The massive kinetic cannon aimed directly at the Death's Edge. There would be no missing at this. Distance. Target their bridge, Ross ordered. End this. The tungsten rod left the barrel at tremendous velocity, crossing the space between ships in milliseconds. It struck the pirate flagship's command section and kept going, punching through armor, bulkheads, and finally emerging from the other side. Warlord Grimm had time for one last thought before his bridge exploded around him. These humans fight, like demons. The Death's Edge broke in half, its massive hull splitting along the impact line. Secondary explosions rippled through both sections as power systems overloaded, and ammunition stores detonated. The remaining pirate ships saw their leader's flagship destroyed and lost their will to fight. They scattered in all directions, fleeing into the depths of the Void Nebula. The battle was over. The human ship Defiant, battered but victorious, drifted in space among the wreckage of the pirate fleet. Around it, human fighters regrouped and began returning to their hangar bays. All stations report, Ross ordered. The reports came in one by one. Damage was extensive but repairable. They had lost 3 fighters and 20 crew members, but they had saved 10,000 lives and destroyed the most feared pirate fleet in the galaxy. On the Celestial Glory, Captain Thane stared at his view screen in complete silence. Everything he thought he knew about human capabilities had just been proven wrong. 2 hours after the battle ended, Captain Ross stood in the docking bay of the Celestial Glory. The luxury liner's interior was nothing like his own ship. Everything gleamed with polished metal and soft lighting. Alien passengers inexpensive. Clothing watched nervously as human rescue teams worked to repair critical systems. Captain Thane approached, his 4 arms hanging at his sides in a gesture of submission that Ross had never seen from an alien before. The proud officer who had dismissed human help now looked humbled and ashamed. Captain Ross, Thane said quietly, I owe you an apology, and much more than that. Ross nodded. Your people are safe. That's what matters. But the cost? Thane gestured toward the docking port where the damaged Defiant was connected. Your ship took terrible damage saving us. Lives were lost. Through the viewport they could see the human vessel. Its front sections were blackened and twisted from the plasma cannon hit. Repair crews were already welding new armor plates, but the scars of battle would remain. 20 good people died today, Ross said simply, but 10,000 lived. That's a trade any human would make. Thane's alien features showed confusion. I don't understand your species. You risk everything for strangers who treated you with contempt. Why? Ross looked out at his ship, where crew members were working around the clock to make repairs. Because it's the right thing to do. Meanwhile, word of the battle was spreading across the galaxy at faster than light speeds. Communication networks carried the news from system to system, and everywhere the story was met with disbelief. On the trade station where the Defiant had been resupplying, dock workers gathered around news screens. The footage was grainy and incomplete, taken from the Celestial Glory's external cameras, but it clearly showed human fighters swarming around massive pirate ships like angry insects. Look at them move, whispered a 6-legged cargo handler. I've never seen ships fly like that. The most shocking footage came from the final moments of the battle. It showed the Death's Edge firing its planet-killer weapon directly at the human ship. The plasma beam was so bright it overloaded the cameras for several seconds. When the image cleared, the Defiant was still there, still fighting, still firing back. Impossible, breathed a crystalline being whose species had mastered energy. Weapons millennia ago. No ship can survive that kind of firepower. But the humans had survived. More than that, they had won. The news reached Nexus Prime while the Galactic Council was in session. Chancellor Vex was discussing trade regulations when an aide rushed onto the floor with an urgent message tablet. The massive lizard-like leader read the report twice before speaking. His red eyes showed an emotion rarely seen in the council chambers. Fear. The session is suspended, he announced. Emergency meeting. All department heads report immediately. Within hours, the council's war room was filled with the galaxy's top military and scientific minds. Holographic displays showed tactical analyses of the battle, breaking down human weapons and tactics frame by frame. their kinetic weapons achieve velocities we thought impossible, reported General Crix, his insect features twitching with nervousness. The projectile mass combined with relativistic speeds creates impact forces beyond our armor specifications. Admiral Zenth, a floating jellyfish-like being, pulsed with agitated colors. More concerning are their fighter tactics. Our targeting systems are designed for civilized warfare, predictable formation, standard maneuvers. These humans fight like barbarians, Chancellor Vex finished grimly. Effective barbarians, Defense Minister Gore, whose rocky exterior hid a brilliant strategic mind, projected new images. Analysis of the human ship's construction reveals redundant systems throughout. When their primary bridge was damaged, they continued fighting. From secondary command centers. When their main power failed, backup generators kept their weapons online. It's as if, Admiral Zenth observed, they designed their ships expecting to take massive damage and keep fighting. Because they did, Chancellor Vex realized. While we perfected elegant solutions, energy shields, quantum armor, adaptive defenses, humans simply built tougher ships and better weapons. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. For thousands of years, galactic civilization had advanced along predictable lines: better energy efficiency, more sophisticated technology, cleaner solutions to old problems. Humans had taken a different path. Instead of making invincible shields, they built ships that could fight with half their systems destroyed. Instead of precise energy weapons, they created kinetic cannons that could punch through any armor ever made. "Sir," General Kreese said carefully, "what are your orders?" Chancellor Vex stared at the tactical displays for a long moment. The footage showed human fighters dancing around pirate ships like they were playing a game. It showed the Defiant charging directly into a planet killer beam and emerging victorious. "Recall all our ships from human space," he ordered, "immediately." "Sir?" Admiral Zenth pulsed with confusion. "And send an emergency message to Admiral Kane on Earth. Tell him the Galactic Council requests his immediate presence at Nexus Prime." "For what purpose, Chancellor?" Vex's reptilian features showed the closest thing to a smile his species could manage. "To discuss Earth's membership in the Alliance, with full military partnership privileges." 3 days later, Admiral Kane walked down the same corridor he had traversed in shame months earlier. This time, the alien beings he passed stepped aside respectfully. News of the battle had reached every corner of the galaxy. The council chamber looked the same, but the atmosphere was completely different. Instead of laughter and mockery, Kane found hundreds of alien representatives watching him with careful attention and barely concealed nervousness. Chancellor Vex stood as Kane entered. "Admiral Kane of Earth, the Galactic Council owes you and your species an apology." Kane remained silent, letting the Chancellor continue. "We judged your technology by our standards and found it primitive. We failed to understand that different doesn't mean inferior." Vex gestured toward the holographic displays showing battle footage. "Your people have achieved something we thought impossible. They defeated the Reaper fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for decades." Trade Minister Crix stepped forward. "Admiral, we would like to offer Earth immediate membership in the Galactic Alliance, with full voting privileges and access to all trade routes." Kane smiled slightly. "And our primitive technology? We would very much like to learn about human military doctrine," Chancellor Vex admitted. "Perhaps we could establish cultural and technological exchange programs." Kane nodded slowly. "We'll consider it, but understand this. Humans don't fight for glory or conquest. We fight to protect people. All people, regardless of species." "That," Chancellor Vex said quietly, "is exactly why the galaxy needs humanity." Outside the chamber, construction crews were already beginning work on Earth's new embassy. For the first time in galactic history, the primitive species had become the ones everyone else wanted to learn from. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating humans. They wouldn't make that mistake again.